The Zodiac Killer didn't just commit crimes. He wrote letters, he sent ciphers, and he turned the entire investigation into a chilling public performance. A game where he set all the rules. This wasn't just about the act itself. It was about the aftermath, the fear, and the legend he was building, one cryptic message at a time. It all started in the summer of 1969. 3 major California newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received a handwritten letter. The author didn't mince words. He claimed responsibility for recent attacks and made a stark demand: publish his message on the front page, or more lives would be lost. To prove he wasn't a prankster, he included details about the crimes that only the killer and the police could possibly know. This wasn't a criminal trying to hide in the shadows. This was a criminal stepping directly into the spotlight, forcing law enforcement into a new, terrifying public arena. The game had begun, and the Zodiac was making the first move, but the letters were only part of his strategy. Attached to these initial communications were encrypted messages or ciphers. The Zodiac claimed that within these complex codes lay his very identity. If someone could just crack them, the truth would be revealed. This challenge sparked a nationwide frenzy. Amateur sleuths, professional cryptographers from the NSA, and everyday citizens all tried their hand at solving the puzzle. One of the first ciphers, the Ziv 408, was famously cracked by a school teacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Harden. The decoded message was chilling, revealing a twisted motive about collecting slaves for the afterlife. But it didn't reveal a name. Other ciphers, like the infamous C340, took decades to solve, and some remain a complete mystery to this day. Their secrets locked away, perhaps forever. By choosing newspapers as his platform, the Zodiac ensured his voice would reach millions. He wasn't just talking to the police, he was talking to everyone. Every new letter published was a headline, every cipher a national puzzle. The public's fascination grew into a palpable fear. People weren't just reading about a distant killer. They felt like he could be anywhere, watching, waiting. He threatened to shoot children on a school bus. He mocked the police for their inability to catch him, and he created a media storm that he alone controlled. The investigation was no longer a quiet, methodical police procedure. It had morphed into a national obsession, fueled by the Zodiac himself. Looking back, investigators and psychologists see a clear pattern. The letters and ciphers were never really about being caught. They were instruments of psychological control. The Zodiac wasn't just a killer, he was a master manipulator. He dictated the pace of the investigation. He set the tone of public discourse, and he carefully constructed the entire narrative around his own crimes. He would go silent for months, even years, only to re-emerge with a new letter, reigniting the fear and fascination all over again. The attention wasn't an accidental byproduct of his crimes. The attention was the entire point. He was turning his reign of terror into a form of celebrity. For the investigators, this was a nightmare. The letters provided a mountain of potential evidence. Handwriting experts pored over every loop and slant. Linguists broke down his unique phrasing and spelling errors, like his consistent misspelling of paradise. Behavioral analysts created profiles based on his tone, his ego, and his taunts. They had his words, his thoughts, his handwriting. It felt like they had a direct line to the killer's mind. Yet, despite all this analysis, the letters created more questions than they answered. Each clue seemed to lead down a new rabbit hole, only to end in a dead end. The Zodiac had crafted a perfect trail of breadcrumbs that looked meaningful, but ultimately led nowhere definitive, leaving investigators perpetually one step behind. Decades later, some of the Zodiac's messages are still unsolved. The remaining ciphers, torn us from the past. Are they elaborate hoaxes designed to waste time and mislead investigators? Or do they genuinely hold the key to his identity, a final secret waiting to be unlocked? We may never know for sure. What is clear, however, is the power of his words. Through these letters, he guaranteed his own twisted form of immortality. He created a ghost that has haunted law enforcement and the public imagination for over 50 years. The case files might be cold, but the legend of the Zodiac, the author of our fears, lives on. The Zodiac Killer was never officially identified, and his identity remains one of the greatest mysteries in American true crime history. But by communicating directly with the public through his letters and his codes, he single-handedly shaped his own legacy. In our next episode, we'll dive deep into the police investigation itself, examining the suspects, the missteps, and the reasons why a killer who craved the spotlight ultimately managed to vanish without a trace. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.